Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another game of Storybook Brawl. So, this time around, we're going to highlight a utterly broken treasure. And, broken if you know how to use it properly or if you get it into the right situations, as, a lot of things that are. So, this time it's about Excalibur, one of the hidden 7 cost treasures in the game, where you can only get it in certain situations. If you've got something that gives you a treasure X levels higher, or if you're playing Horde Dragon, or I think you can also get it if you already have level 6 treasures, or if you've run out of level 6 treasure choices. And then you get another level 6 treasure, then you get a choice of a level 7 treasure. So what Excalibur does, it's very similar to the Gilded Harp, whereas the Gilded Harp makes all of your level 2 and level 3 units upgraded. Excalibur makes all of your units upgraded. So this can be really handy for going from, from a nothing type of setup or board into like the full bore, full throttle version very quickly if your shop lines up correctly. So this game is with Mad Catter. He's one of the more skill-intensive heroes out there. And you can also say luck-based, but that's as with anything, it's the difference between skill and luck is a fine line sometimes. Knowing when to roll to try and get bigger units on the bonuses, and knowing when to just take what's offered to you and build a good, synergistic compound instead of a mishmash compound. So this game's going along pretty decently here. Looks like I'm going to be on the evil animals type plan, although it's not in the first 2 shops of round 3. We haven't seen any evil queens yet, which is a little bit of a letdown, but we've got a hippocampus double here, which we can actually slide into. It's perfectly serviceable. It's not quite as powerful as Queen, obviously, but it's also a permanent buff, whereas the Evil Queen is not. So it can actually, over time, grow to be a superior unit, especially if you're somebody like Potion Master or Merlin, where you can get other attack buffs on it pretty easily. So just keep rolling along in the game here, and moving the game plan forward, grabbing hippos and animals to buff up the hippos, and then we finally find a queen here, so we got to kind of make a decision. We'll just jump out of the billy goats, because the one cat is buffed up quite a bit at this point, so that's a pretty nice unit to have up there if we manage to triple it. I think I'd get offered the triple here in a later shop down the line, but I decided not to triple it. I forget if that's this game exactly, but I guess we'll see when we get there. But yeah, once we pick up this evil queen, things start rolling along pretty nicely for us, and we managed to do quite well in the lobby, even though we never see another evil queen along the whole other way. Spoilers. But yeah, going back there, so the other thing about the early game is I haven't found any treasures to this point, which seems kind of, disappointing on some levels, but can't be too sad about that, because the level 2 and level 3 treasures aren't that impactful, save maybe the combinations of them. Like you get 2 level 3 specific treasures like the Merlin's hat and the crystal ball, where that can allow you to cast a lot of buff spells on your units, but that also has the drawback of being a little bit of a trap, because then you get caught up buying a whole bunch of spells and buffing weak units, whereas you're not buying your better, more expensive units through the mid game and into the end game. So the spells giveth and they taketh away when you're going for that hat ball combination. So just one of my 2 cents on that take right there. So we finally get a first treasure, and it was a pretty easy choice there of the ancient sarcophagus. with the way I have this board set up here, it was the only thing that was kind of beneficial, and I'm actually quite happy that I found it, because we're getting, 6, 12, 18 extra damage out of the ancient sarcophagus on their units, which doesn't seem like a lot when it's 3 at a time when you're going up against 14 puffs, but it all adds up, right? So going into 5 here, I've kind of realizing that my board is pretty anemic. A non-upgraded Queen of Hearts, relatively small. The hippocampus is still pretty small because I haven't managed to triple it. So I'm free rolling this shop looking for a direction, or which way am I going to be taking my composition for the end game, because animals, especially without an upgraded vulture, gets pretty bad in the end game. Yeah, I don't like being on animals, even with an upgraded vulture and an upgraded Berenstain at the end game. Like, it's not the best. And then you also want to have the baby bear in there, which isn't going to help you with your sarcophagus, and it doesn't help with the evil queen because I don't have the vultures here. So this is where we grabbed the treasure map because there wasn't anything else very pertinent, and we're in that stage of the game there where I can find 3 5s to get myself that coveted level 7 treasure. So there's a couple of pretty powerful ones that we can get, and that kind of also aims us in different to different strategies, right? Maybe you want Phoenix Feather if you've got one huge unit. I don't have that here, so that wouldn't be particularly useful for me. We also have the Mirror, which would be pretty good with my board if I had the other pieces like the Vulture and an upgraded Evil Queen there. The Mirror would be pretty good with all the little token makers I got there, because that would be just 1 extra token along with the sarcophagus procs. So that would be kind of handy there. So I had finally kind of made my decision. I wanted to go along to that evil, I always hate calling it scam, but it's sort of that composition that does random things. So books and pumpkin kings and that kind of stuff that just kind of wears your opponent down, especially with their sarcophagus there. I think the pumpkin king direction's definitely where I wanted to look to go to. So started heading in that direction, maybe passed up on a couple of units that go into that composition along the way, but I'm ultimately not super sad about it at the end of the day, really. So that big health hippocampus came through in that round for me, and just goes to show that even though it's not the best, it still can do its work now and again. So one thing, so I see the baby bear there, but I'm kind of out of that line of thinking right now in that composition. I've fade on the monster book just for now, because I kind of want to get my pieces in place before we go down that line. But we get here, we see an Ashwood, so maybe that's a different direction we can go in. If I'm getting offered the Ashwoods, we may as well start picking them up and see if we can't go into the treants. I slotted in because a 2020 is just randomly better than the 2 like the 1/1 and the 1/1 cat that comes out of it, along with the 6 damage from the sarcophagus and the 6/6 on the queen, and +1 health on the hippocampus. It was just better stats overall. So we finally nailed this level 7 treasure. So we've got the choice. Phoenix Feather does absolutely nothing for us. We're not interested in that right now because our biggest unit, it's really not that big. Even if the queen gets up pretty big, it's still not going to be that big compared to what most people can put together on tier 6. The Holy Grail is the you really need to have your plan set in in stone. Like, you have to know exactly what you're going for and what you want to do. And I'm still at this point kind of flip-flopping. Do I want to be Treants? Do I want to be Pumpkin King? I'm not sure what I'm seeing in this tier 6 shop just yet. Like, I don't want to fight over a composition with somebody, because then that, that weakens out your overall position. So I think the safe bet, the holy grail leans towards that. If you know what you want, you got 1,000 gold, you can just roll shops till the cows come home and pick up all of the units. If you can APM yourself fast enough to do it, right? You got to sell the units, you got to slot in your other units and pick your treasures when you get your triples and all of that stuff. So the easy and safe pick is the Excalibur, and that also lends us to going down the Pumpkin King route pretty easily, because you get a golden Pumpkin King straight off the bat, as well as that you don't have to worry about tripling up on other 6s in there. So we just grab an evil 6 while we see it in here, and then also an evil 5 cost, because those are all going to count towards the Pumpkin King when we get it at the end. And we're still kind of hedging our bets between monster composition with the Oni King and the Neon and the Treants with the Ashwood and it's not an upgraded Ashwood at this point, but I think I end up with one eventually. But there we see the Pumpkin King, so we can finally start putting all of that together. And really hemmed and hawed on that Hercules, because the only way at this point with the Excalibur to get any more treasures is to use the quest minions. The Hercules being a 46 to start, it's not bad, right? You'll get him triggered off pretty quickly, but doesn't fit in with my composition, and I wanted to kind of being a little bit behind the 8 ball on getting my team together. I just kind of wanted to keep rolling along, and instead of stopping along the way for a tier 6 treasure, which I'm not exactly sure which one I wanted. Like, obviously if I went Treants, then we'd want to hit the round table, but if we're not, then I don't know. Like, if we're going strictly with Pumpkin King, then I'm not sure what my final or what tier 6 treasure I would want at that point. So some debate over positioning on the back line there with the Oni King and the Pumpkin King. I like this setup where you have the Oni King last, because if the Pumpkin King gets to attack and or dies first, then you've still got your Oni King back there to buff up any of the evil monsters that spawn out of the Pumpkin King. And that's the reason why I like that, as opposed to having the Oni King first, because if the Oni King attacks and dies, it gives you an extra 5 cost coming out of the pumpkin, but then you don't get the Oni King buffs on the units coming out of the bit. So just my 2 cents on that. I think it's the safer play overall. Only time will tell, I guess. 3 broccolis out of this pumpkin wasn't the best, but the Siren coming to our savior at the end there, getting 2 Grumblegores on board, which kind of helped shore that up, because I had a whole bunch of 0 attack minions on the board. That wasn't doing very much work there. So we see an upgraded Ashwood here, and can't pass up on the Pigomorph when we're going into the final 2, so that's where we go with that. And then we just kind of got this, again, mishmash board, but Excalibur making them all upgraded units really does go a long way. So do a little chicken dance there, and I passed chickens along the way as well, which kind of bad, but I was trying to go fast because I only had a couple of seconds left on the timer. So going up against a combo, again, he's got a mishmash. He's got a split of 2 different compositions on his side of the board. He's got Good Boy with Magic Sword, and he's also got Berenstain and the Baby Bears. So, and of course an upgraded Echo Wood there as well, with the Berenstain can get pretty big, although this is one of the compositions that gives you a puncher's chance, so to speak, with the rotten apple trees coming out of Pumpkin Kings. But here for this last fight, it's the last fight one way or the other. If I die, or if he beats me, I die. If I beat him, he dies. But I find a second upgraded Oni King and a second upgraded Pumpkin King. He got his upgraded Berenstain, but I managed to snipe his Echo Wood with my Sarcophagus, and he's obviously emoting being a little bit upset over that, so I just give him the BM back because, you know what, I can understand one emote being angry that, you know, I got lucky with my snipe, but with the Pumpkin King anyways, I'm gonna hit those Poet Rotten Apple Trees, which are gonna snuke his big tree at the end anyways. So yeah, that's that fight there, or that's that brawl there, just to illustrate the overwhelming power of that composition. And yeah, I appreciate you all for checking out my video, and yeah, do stop by for the next one. I appreciate you all, and we will see you in the next one.